A pocket watch spins in midday dust, its case cracked open, a spiral engraved on the interior cap catching the noon sun like a signal mirror. The echo of a gunshot is still dying in the dry air. Not yet silence, not yet peace. Then a voice, unhurried, almost gentle. The voice belongs to Kibben. You should have rerouted when I told you to. The first time, a second sound follows, not a gunshot but something older. A resonant metallic ring as the watch strikes the dirt and the cap pops loose. What's inside the watch catches the light wrong, refracts it into colors that have absolutely no business existing in 1882. A shard, luminous and impossible, pulsing in the cavity of a dead man's timepiece. Cut to black. High noon at Dry Fork. 2 days earlier, a stagecoach hauls into Dry Fork trailing a comet tail of red dust, the horses blowing hard, the whole contraption rattling like it's held together by rust and spite. The group piles out disoriented, dust-coated, costumed by something they don't fully understand. The smell of horse and hot iron replacing whatever came before. Nobody chose these clothes. The undertow made those decisions for them. Hudson is already wearing the sheriff's badge. Cooper has a deputy star pinned at a cheerful diagonal that suggests it was attached in motion. Neither of them remember putting these on. Hudson touches the badge once like he's checking if it's real. Jameson stops moving the moment he sees the north end of the street. 3 nooses hang from the gallows frame, fresh knotted, still clean, no weight on them yet. He stares for exactly 2 seconds. Then he pulls out the camera. The town is quiet in the particular way that means someone already left to go get trouble. Shutters half drawn, kids absent. On every post along the boardwalk, the same handbill, property of Ketch Railroad. Vacate by Friday. Today is Wednesday. Sanskriti comes through the saloon doors like she's owned the place for years. Which, in this version of things, she has. The burgundy blouse, the gold watch at her wrist catching the afternoon light, the expression that says she's already calculated the variables and is simply waiting for everyone else to catch up. Andrew is at the water trough, one hand braced on the edge, watching his reflection practice a draw. The reflection is faster than he is. He knows this. He practices anyway. Mert watches from the stable doorway, one hand on a pitchfork, and says nothing, which from Mert is basically a standing ovation. Then Baron Ketch arrives. 6 horsemen first, dust rising in a curtain, and then Ketch himself on a black gelding that matches the energy of a man who genuinely enjoys entering rooms. The charcoal suit is immaculate. The silver-handled cane is across his saddle. The gold watch chain glints at his vest. And at his right hand, 2 paces back, Kibben. Long black riding coat, cord necklace catching the light, face unreadable in a way that reads as the most dangerous thing in a crowd of men with loaded weapons. Julian, watching from the saloon porch, goes very still. Ketch delivers his ultimatum from the saddle, voice projecting like a man who paid for the acoustics. The railroad comes through Friday. The town goes to grade. Anyone standing on this land after dawn on Friday is a trespasser on corporate property. He produces the deed, signed, stamped, notarized. He gestures at the gallows. He doesn't say the rest. He doesn't need to. A man with 3 nooses already knotted is a man who plans ahead. Hudson steps forward. His hand goes to his holster on instinct. The empty holster, the gun, with no bullets. And Ketch notices. The laugh that comes out of him is the kind that's designed to land in a crowd. It does. From the saloon porch, Julian watches Kibben the way a gambler watches a hand that doesn't add up. Kibben's eyes haven't moved to the group once. They're fixed on a point somewhere past Ketch's left shoulder. Not threat assessment. Something else. Julian files it away. Ketch rides back to the rail camp. His men follow, kicking up a fresh curtain of dust. Kibben turns his horse to follow, and then pauses. 1 breath. 2. His gaze sweeps the saloon porch, the water trough, the roof lines. Then he rides. But the pause has already landed. That night in Sanskriti's saloon, every lamp burning low, the debate sounds like an argument, but functions like a plan. Cooper says they fight. Andrew says they should fight louder. Mert, from the end of the bar, says they should move the horses. Everyone looks at Mert. The horse's idea is, in fact, the only immediately useful idea on the table. He takes a long drink from his glass and does not acknowledge this. Sanskriti lays it out. Ketch's deeds are legal on their face, but 3 of the selling parties are dead, hanged, and those signatures may have been coerced. 1 living deed holder willing to testify makes the whole purchase collapse. The problem is there's no court within 3 days. Ride. Hudson admits, quietly, that his gun is empty. There is a brief silence. Then Ethan, who has not said a single word since arriving in Dry Fork, sets a full box of ammunition on the bar without looking up from his workbench notes. Everyone stares at it. Julian deals solitaire and narrates Ketch's men like he's read all their mail. Which hand they'll play, in what order, when they'll fold. The plan crystallizes around his words: stall Ketch, expose the deed fraud, and force a confrontation they can actually win. Outside the saloon window, in the dark space between lamplight and nothing, Kibben stands against the wall and listens to all of it. He is smiling, faintly, briefly, in a way that isn't amusement so much as recognition. He has heard this plan before, or something very close to it. Thursday. Ketch sends 2 men to burn Ethan's gunsmith shop as a warning, a message delivered in kerosene and match. They arrive to find the wheel pin pulled from their wagon, the powder containers sealed shut, the flint striker jammed with what appears to be deliberate precision. Ethan watches from the back doorway, cleaning a rifle barrel, saying absolutely nothing. He has the quality of a man who saw this coming because he sees most things coming and simply doesn't feel the need to announce it. The sabotage was Kibben's work. He doesn't say so. He was there an hour before Ketch's men, moved through the shop in the dark, and left everything exactly broken enough to matter. He is running 2 games simultaneously, and he is very good at both. Across town, Julian sits down at a card table with Ketch's foreman, a broad, sun-leathered man who plays poker like he's watching Julian and not his own hand, which is exactly the mistake Julian was counting on. By the time the foreman realizes he's lost the game, he's also confirmed what Julian needed. The deeds were signed under duress, and the originals are locked in Ketch's railcar safe, a detail you don't give up unless someone has made it very easy to keep talking. In the alley behind the saloon, the light is the particular gray of a Thursday afternoon going wrong. Sunscritti finds Kibben there as if she'd known exactly where to look, because she had. Whose side are you actually on? She doesn't yell it. Sunscritti is the kind of person who makes the quiet version land harder. Kibben looks at her for a long moment. The question doesn't surprise him. He's been waiting for someone to ask it. I've lost this town before. He says it the way you say something you've had to carry for a long time. Not dramatically, but with a weight that makes the air feel heavier. Sunscritti doesn't move. She waits. He tells her there have been other versions of this day, other versions of this hour. In each one, the town didn't stand until it was too late, or Kibben wasn't positioned correctly, or the watch ended up somewhere he couldn't reach it. This is the first time he has said any of this to another person. He tells her they need to be ready by noon tomorrow, that he intends to make sure Ketch draws first and loses, and that the watch in Ketch's vest pocket is the reason he is in Dry Fork at all. The town's salvation is real, but it was never the primary objective. Sunscritti holds the silence for a long beat. Then she nods, one slow, deliberate nod, and walks back through the saloon door without saying anything else. Some agreements don't require words. Kibben watches her go. Thursday night. Behind the stable, in the dark, Andrew is practicing his draw. He's been at it for an hour. The leather of the holster is starting to know his hand. He's getting faster, which is exactly why Ketch has sent 2 men to find him. They come from opposite angles. Professional, which means this wasn't improvised. The first man shoves Andrew hard into the fence post. The second circles. Andrew's gun goes down in the dirt. For 3 seconds, he is unarmed in the dark, with 2 men who have been paid to produce a specific outcome. He recovers the gun. His hands are not entirely steady, but they're steady enough. He gets his back to the fence and faces both of them, and the fact that he's still standing is doing real work here because neither man expected that to take more than 1 hit. The stable door bangs open. Mert comes through it fast, pitchfork leveled at the second man with the specific energy of someone who has not thought this through but is committed now. The hired gun looks at the kid with the pitchfork. He looks at it for a long moment. The moment stretches. The hired gun has a pistol at his hip and a clear advantage in every category except willingness. And right now, standing in the dark with a pitchfork pointed at his chest, it is not entirely obvious which side of that ledger Mert is on. Then, Kibben materializes from the shadows at the edge of the stable wall. The way he does things, without announcement, already there. He looks at both of Ketch's men and speaks very quietly. He says Ketch's order was frighten, not kill, and suggests they remember the distinction before the night gets more complicated. They leave. Footsteps in the dark, then hoofbeats, then nothing. Andrew and Mert stand in the dust together, breathing. Andrew looks at his own hands. Mert lowers the pitchfork and surveys it for damage. "You owe me a new pitchfork." Andrew laughs, then winces. They stand there for another full minute, not saying anything else, which is worth more than anything either of them could have said. Friday. Dawn comes in gold and copper over Dryfork, the kind of morning that looks like a painting and feels like an ultimatum. Ethan has been awake since 3. By the time the light is strong enough to see by, every townsperson who asked him has been armed. Hudson and Cooper have stationed everyone. Cooper has talked the entire time, covering positions, potential angles, the exact coefficient of morning light on a rifle barrel, and whether Mrs. Hartley's dry goods awning counts as cover. Hudson has told him to be quiet 4 times. He is currently on the 5th. Sanskriti stands on the saloon porch with her arms at her sides and her chin level. She could be waiting for a delivery. She could be about to negotiate the terms of a surrender. Either way, nobody is getting past her without permission. On a rooftop above the general store, Jameson settles into position with the camera braced on his knee. He frames the empty street in the viewfinder. He doesn't know yet what the camera is going to give him, but he has learned in 4 worlds now to trust whatever it sees. Julian had spent Thursday night feeding Ketch's camp a careful lie, that the group planned to abandon town before noon, that the resistance had broken, that the street would be empty. He dealt that information like a card from the bottom of the deck, and Ketch took it. Ketch arrives at 11:50 with his full complement, 8 men this time, which means he decided to be comfortable rather than efficient. He rides the center of the street, and the sun is directly behind him, which he has timed deliberately. Then he sees the street. He sees every position. His face does the math. He recovers in under a second. Men like Ketch are built for recovery, and calls out for his hired gun to clear the street. His gaze finds Kibben at the edge of the group. He says the name like he owns it. "Kibben, do your job." Kibben rides forward, not toward the group, toward the center of the street. He walks his horse in a slow arc until he is facing Ketch. He stops there. The entire street goes quiet. Ketch says his name again. This time, it sounds like a question. Kibben looks at him across 30 feet of sun-baked dirt and says very quietly the words from the opening, "You should have rerouted when I told you to. The first time." Ketch's hand drops to his holster. He is fast. Genuinely fast. The kind of fast that has won him arguments before, and he never clears leather. Kibben's draw is already done before the motion registers. The shot rings out across Dryfork like a period at the end of a long sentence. Ketch goes down in the dust. His horse shies, and from his vest pocket, spinning loose across the ground in a long arc, comes the pocket watch. Case open, catching noon sunlight. It hits the dirt. The engraved cap pops loose, and what's inside it refracts the light into colors that have no business in 1882. Ketch's men look at each other. They look at the armed town. They look at the man who just beat the fastest draw they'd ever seen, sitting still in the saddle with his gun already holstered. The unanimous conclusion is swift. Their employment contract has lapsed. They ride. In the scramble of the retreat, one of the riders, blind with panic, not aim, fires back over his shoulder. Andrew has stepped into the street to watch them go. The bullet finds the outside of his left arm like it was looking for him specifically. He goes down to one knee. The street goes briefly very loud, then very quiet. The graze is shallow. It has to be shallow, but the audience doesn't know that yet, and neither does Andrew. And for the full beat between the sound and the assessment, the air in that street is not breathable. Ethan is there in under 30 seconds. He doesn't run. He moves with the focused efficiency of a man who has already decided panic is unproductive, pulling cloth from his apron, pressing, looking. Shallow, he says. Just the one word. The entire street exhales. Cooper's reaction is immediate, comprehensive, and significantly louder than the gunshot that caused it. He covers every aspect of the situation, including several hypothetical aspects and at least 2 that apply to completely different scenarios. Hudson puts a hand on his shoulder. It helps slightly. Andrew laughs once about being grazed, stops because it genuinely hurts, and decides dignity requires keeping still while Ethan works. Mert appears with a bucket of water from the stable, sets it down beside Ethan without a word, and crouches nearby. The silence from Mert is considerably more comforting than Cooper's entire monologue. Meanwhile, across the street, Sanskriti picks up the pocket watch from the dust. She turns it over in her hands, the engraved spiral, the loose cap. She opens the back case. The interior housing is hollow. The spiral is etched on a removable panel. Beneath it, catching noonlight in a way that makes her breath stop briefly, is a shard. Kibben dismounts. He walks over, takes the watch from her hands, not quickly, not urgently, the way you pick up something you put down somewhere on purpose, and lifts the shard free. He knew exactly where it was. He has known since before he rode into Dry Fork at Ketch's right hand. Sanskriti looks at him. He meets her eyes. She already knew, he told her in the alley. But knowing it and watching it are different things. And for a moment, the full weight of what he's been doing across versions of this day is visible in the space between them. Julian presents the decoded deed evidence to Ketch's surviving foreman that afternoon. The foreman is a pragmatic man with a self-preservation instinct that outweighs his loyalty to a dead employer. Within the hour, he's at the telegraph office. Within 3 hours, a response wire arrives. The Ketch line is under review. Construction halted, pending fraud investigation. Dry Fork is not saved forever. Nothing in the undertow ever is, but it is saved for now. And right now, the townsfolk are coming out of their doors, and Sanskriti is opening every bottle she has, and that is enough. Inside the saloon, Hudson sets his badge down on the bar. He places it flat, carefully, the way you put down something borrowed that you're grateful to return. He doesn't say anything. Nobody asks him to. Ethan is already at the workbench, cleaning. He is most fully himself when things are ending, when the noise has cleared, and there is just the work of putting things back in order. He wipes down a barrel and does not look up when the celebration fills the room around him. Jameson comes out of the saloon's back room, where he's been developing the day's tintype. He holds the plate up and looks at it for a long moment before he turns it around to show the group. The image is not the duel. It's a corridor. Steel walls. Recessed lighting that hums with something that hasn't been invented yet. The faint curve of a starship hull at the edge of the frame, clean and cold and unmistakably real. The camera caught something that wasn't there. Or it caught something that was always there, underneath. The group looks at it for a long time. Nobody says anything. Jameson doesn't show it to anyone outside the group. He slides it into the leather satchel, and the celebration continues around them, and the piano starts up. Nobody in this saloon actually plays it well, and the day slowly exhales. Later, when the celebration has thinned to its honest residue, Kibben sits across from Sanskriti at a corner card table. The room is quiet enough that the piano, still playing badly, with conviction, provides cover. She asks him what he meant, the first time. Losing this town before. He speaks carefully. This is not the first version of this day he has moved through. There have been others, other versions of this town, this hour, this confrontation. In the earlier ones, Ketch won. The town burned. The shard stayed lost, inside the watch, inside a dead man's pocket, inside a burned railcar. He says he doesn't fully understand the mechanism. He says the versions accumulate. He carries them somehow, the weight of iterations that didn't work. He says the cats know more than he does, which is the most specific and least explainable thing he has said all episode. As if on cue, Orpheus opens one amber eye from under the card table. He has been asleep there, or performing sleep, for the entirety of this conversation. He looks directly at Kibben. Then he closes his eye again. Sanskriti watches this happen. She looks at the cord necklace. 4 strands snapped, dangling loose. 6 intact. She asks, "How many more?" Kibben is quiet for a moment. 6, he says. She doesn't ask 6 more what. She doesn't have to. The understanding sits between them, fully formed, and neither of them reaches for it. Dusk. The group gathers at the edge of town with the horses they no longer need, Andrew's arm wrapped in clean cloth, his jaw set at the angle that means he is fine and will continue to insist on this indefinitely. He walks without help. Everyone allows him this. The trail east runs out into desert scrubland, and then, at the edge of visible land, half a mile out, past the last hitching post, standing alone in the open air with no fence attached to it, an iron gate. Nothing before it. Nothing after it but a dirt trail that smells nothing like desert. Kibben takes the shard from his coat pocket. He holds it for a moment. The weight of it, the warmth, whatever it means to hold a piece of something that should not exist in 1882, and then he presses it against the others already gathered. There is a sound like a tuning fork very far away. He touches the cord necklace. One more strand snaps. He looks at it for a second, the broken end between his fingers, and then drops it in the dust without ceremony and without looking where it falls. 6 intact. 4 down. Something is being counted. Orpheus is already through the gate. He's sitting on the far side, watching them with amber eyes that catch the last of the dusklight. Calm, expectant, as if he's been waiting here and has simply not mentioned it until now. The iron gate stands open behind him. The group walks through, one by one, into the dark beyond the gate that has no business standing here in the middle of the desert, toward a trail that swallows the light, towards something they can already half see rising against a sky that has misplaced all of its stars. At the far end of the trail, against a sky with no stars, a black Victorian mansion rises on a hill, iron-banded, lightless from the outside, old in a way that has nothing to do with construction dates. The gate swings shut behind them with a sound like the period at the end of a long sentence. The last sound from Dry Fork is the piano in Sanskriti Saloon. Still playing. Nobody left to play it.